So, longtime followers of the channel might appreciate this. Recently, we hit the milestone of 100 Dat Riff and Dat Solo videos recorded. And I've been wanting to do a kind of rifftrospective and look at those first 100 videos and see maybe if there's anything interesting to talk about with any of them, whether it's to do with the guitar playing, the tones, or what was happening at the time. I don't know. If anyone has questions about the things I'm discussing, I'll answer them in the comments. And hopefully this is an interesting tour through this channel's history, because this series started 7 years ago. And I'm just going to try and edit this down into a reasonable length of time. So only the interesting stories are present in the end. So I hope you find it enjoyable. Let me know in the comments. So the first thing here is this is Pyrithion, which was a kind of like, what would you call them, like death metal supergroup. The fact that this was in HD was actually a big deal at the time, if you can believe that or not. I was one of the few people uploading HD riff covers then, or at least certainly in this kind of style of music, it wasn't that easy to find HD covers. 720 back in the day. And this was the video which has had the most views in 24 hours of any of my uploads, because Tim Lambesis basically promoted it on the Pyrithion Facebook page right after I uploaded it. So I went to sleep, woke up, it had 3,000 views, and next month he was in jail for trying to have his wife killed. So yeah, it was some spicy drama to start the Dat Riff videos off with. But yeah, real meaty, girthy death metal riffs here from Pyrithion. So I have a couple of things I love about this cover. The first of which was, this was the only Vildjharta riff that I could figure out by ear. Even though I love them, they're just so difficult to play. The other thing I love about this cover is the way the lowest string flubs on this note. It's one of those things where like the frame rate matches up with the frequency, and it just looks sick. And then this is where I get into the into my Miroist phase, where basically, if you can believe it, back in 2013 it was actually exciting when gent EPs would come out and people had new and original things to say in the genre. And I still think the Miroist is massively underrated. And you can also see this massive headphone lead that I'm nowadays much better at disguising. And also this agile, which I got just basically to play much heavier music with a 30-inch scale length along the low strings. And that has served me really well, although I'm going to replace it with my new M80M. But yeah, I think like this riff is actually sick. It actually has an interesting polymeter, which is how you can tell it's not modern gent. Sorry, this is like becoming a grumpy old man reacts to music from the before times. During this era, I did have to refilm some videos just because the crotch was getting too prominent. Yeah, that's an interesting factoid about the early Dat Riff videos. So this is one of the rare guitar solos I cover for this channel, and I made sure to film it from a really flattering angle in a good outfit. But yeah, like I think it took me a long time to realize I just love rhythm guitar far more than I love guitar solos, and I actually love a lot of the really good lead guitar players like Steve Vai, Allan Holdsworth, Shawn, like all that stuff. But for me, like that's the level of guitar solo I'm interested in listening to, whereas there's so many good riffs out there. But yeah, like this solo, absolutely awesome. I figured out shortly after release, I think, except that in the time it took me to work out just the intro solo, someone else had worked out the entire song and all the harmony parts. There are some terrifyingly talented musicians out there. But yeah, I was really pleased with this solo cover. And seeing as it's been 7 years, I'm going to tell you what I'm very slightly salty about here, which is that if you listen to how I play this, okay, so someone commented, like, you know, that this is very dry and it lacks articulation. I'm covering the original articulation. I'm not like gonna just throw in Gary Moore blues vibrato on every note because I'm covering it. I'm trying to play it like the original. Anyway, there's my very minor salt about this particular solo cover. Sorry. One thing that's really cool about learning songs by ear is that you are much more likely to adapt the fingerings to what's comfortable for you, right? Because you're working it out. And so Aaron Marshall plays this solo in a completely different way than I play it. And obviously I play it the way that's more comfortable for me. So obviously there's a real benefit in learning to play like other players play, but I think it's really nice that when you learn a solo by ear, you're focused on just the sound and you can just let your fingers do what comes natural. I think there's something nice about that. So I think he does that with a sweep. You'll notice the camera angles are really inconsistent because trying to get good light and keep all the mess in the room out of the way required some iteration. I've found a decent setup nowadays, but it took me a long time. Wow, 8 likes, 900 views. This is not a well appreciated Dat Riff video. I think circles in general, massively underappreciated. Speaking of my Miroist phase, here I am in a Miroist t-shirt. I do try and wear t-shirts of the bands I'm covering so that they know I am actually spending money on them. I'm not just out here to boost my ego. Yeah, see, a lot of these old videos, my guitar is very low in the mix, or much lower than it should be. And this is... So the issue was basically that to do these riffs, I would listen to the original dozens, hundreds of times, and then I'd be playing over it. And for me, I was so familiar with the sound of the original and the sound of my own guitar that I could obviously tell them apart. But that's not what people are watching these videos for. So you'll notice I've got a lot better about bringing my guitar up in the mix, or giving it a little bit more bite in the tone, so it's more distinguishable. Or at least I think I'm better at that. Long-time viewers can let me know. Intervals back in 2013 were just such a killer band. I'm not saying they're not good now, but I really like this era for them. I think this was the first really hard downpicking riff that I had to learn, and you can hear I'm struggling just about to keep up here. It's okay. I have no fucking clue how that riff goes. I just sat down one day and I was just like, I'm gonna vibe this out, and I had listened to it enough that I basically could just play it all by ear. But yeah, like I don't know if I could tab that. I certainly couldn't play it nowadays. It's really tricky. I remember this riff actually being at the time the most difficult riff I had ever worked out by ear. And I mean, it's not an easy riff, but I've worked out harder stuff since, and it's really nice to look back on this and think, you know, I could work this kind of riff out much faster than in those days, and I can also play this kind of riff much more easily. It's very easy to forget you make progress, but when you record videos and you see yourself, you know, after 7 years, it is nice to go, yeah, you know, I can play guitar better than that now. I still don't think anyone really writes riffs that sounds like that, which is one of the reasons the Miroist is really cool. Yeah, that's... hit me up in the comments if you've got any recommendations that sound similar. So this is one of those interesting riffs where where I'm playing this little fill. The band is playing some like fairly nonsensical stuff that I can't figure out at all, so I just bluff it. I think that's pretty ethical under some circumstances. I've got better at trying to actually play the same dirt that I hear, but if you ask people, it's usually much easier to transcribe fast, accurate stuff than like weird, messy stuff, and this is that was definitely weird, messy stuff for those couple of seconds on the recording. So when I recorded this riff, it was kind of interesting because I love this riff, but it's much easier to play than almost everything else on the playlist. But I think you gotta be true to yourself, you know, play what you love. I do consider before filming things if they're gonna make for good watching, which I guess this doesn't necessarily. But this channel is partially about just sharing things I think are really cool, so I hope I did that. Although I mean, I think everyone's heard of Cult of Luna, so I don't know if I really put the name out there at all. I think this is such a cool guitar part, and I had no idea how this was played until I saw them live and actually saw the guy with the little roll of sellotape, and totally blew my mind. Like one of the most interesting combinations of groove and texture in popular music for a long time, from a guitar playing perspective. Oh man, when I was 15, I was like, the Berzerker was just like my band, and I was like, this is the cool riff. Like, if you were gonna be a guitar player, this was the riff to learn, and it's impossible. Anyone who thinks Tesseract riffs are easy should learn a few. They are so much harder than they sound. I think they're really underestimated, and they kill it live. Like, yeah, absolutely awesome band. So this is kind of cool actually, because this is not the album version of Belua. This was the teaser they released for the album, which I thought was incredibly cool. I actually think it's cooler than the album version. And I had no idea how this was played. So what I did was I tuned my lowest string to the lowest note. I figured out if I played a really high harmonic, how I could tune that string to get the highest note here, and then I just kind of placed the rest of the notes around. And Humanity's Last Breath actually use a really strange tuning, but it's nothing like the tuning I used. And I also didn't really understand they were using a whammy pedal, because this was my first time working out music that had been created with a whammy pedal. So yeah, like I obviously struggled a bit, but I'm kind of proud that I put together something that sounded correct. Like I really did follow my ears and made the tools do what I needed them to do. I wasn't like, you know, how do I buy things to get that sound? I just managed to make it with my hands and the gear I could afford. One of the cool things about doing Dat Riff videos is that when you upload a song, sometimes the people will be like, well, I actually think the riff immediately after this one is much better, which is the top comment here. Which is cool though, because it's really interesting, and there's a few of my longtime subscribers basically will say they know exactly what riffs I'm going to do, which I think is cool. I think it means that I'm generally picking the riffs that other people really dig. Oh yeah, this is from when I had my right hand chops really together, because I could not do this today. It is just 2 minutes of fast trem picking. I think, you know, whenever people are looking for lots of weird breakdown noises to throw in, they should really start stealing from dubstep, because like this siren sample, this forced some really creative arrangement out of me. I think my music taste has just got heavier over the years as well. Like, you gotta remember back then, it was Vildjharta and Meshuggah were the heavy bands. That's pretty tasty, but like, the stuff I do today is so much heavier. So this might be, I don't know, this may surprise some people, but my musical journey, I went from kind of like new metal, industrial metal, jazz fusion, extreme metal, and I'm a huge Shawn Lane fan, and very fond of Jonas Hellborg as well. I've even met Jonas, who is a very intimidatingly intelligent person. But yeah, basically, one of the problems with being really into jazz fusion legends like Shawn Lane, Allan Holdsworth, is that they play really difficult music, and I think this is like a really riffy Shawn Lane segment, and I had my chops pretty together so I could kind of fluff the pentatonic lines, and honestly, like this was maybe more than 10 years after I first heard this and thought it was amazing before I could actually play it. So I'd just like to encourage you, you know, like, even if you can't play the music you love now, if you practice, you will build yourself there. I really do mean that, and it's so satisfying. It's really worth it. And he just phrases so beautifully with little slides, and what a tremendous guitar player. I'm really just I'm just coloring inside the lines there of what Shawn Lane has done. He's amazing. What a gnarly riff. And this is one of those ones where I'm learning my favorite riff in the song, and then I realize the riff immediately before or after is actually an equally awesome riff. So here I like learned this riff, and I was like, you know what, the next riff is actually sick. So I memorized that too, and it took forever to memorize. So tricky. Yeah, I think I could still tap that out. I don't know if I could still play it so cleanly, but the groove has stuck with me. This is a style of riff writing I really wish there was more of. These like syncopated wide interval but melodic lines. They're so rare. I mean, I've tried to write a few myself and they're difficult to write, which is why they're so... I'm also like a gigantic Cloudkicker fan. I think I've covered like 30 Cloudkicker riffs total, maybe. A lot. And it got to the point where he hadn't released a heavy album in a while, and so I was just going through his SoundCloud finding some cool riffs. I think Cloudkicker has the sickest count-ins of any gent artist. I love this kind of really exaggerated articulation. Like, you play the slide and the slide is the most important thing. It's not really about the note, it's about the sound of that slide, or the big bends. I think that's a really cool way to play guitar, is to think, what are the most interesting guitar-y sounds I can make, and focus on that rather than, you know, like playing traditional melodies or chords. I actually try and do tremolo picking riffs every now and again, because otherwise my right hand will completely disappear and I won't be able to cover riffs anymore. So aggressive. I'm really hyped for the new Berzerker album. I actually went to Freak Guitar Camp. I forget what year, but it was amazing, and I would strongly recommend anyone who's interested in doing a week of intense guitar study. I think it's the best way to do it. I've done a couple of different similar things, but Freak Guitar Camp is the best. Oh, what a hairstyle. Sometimes I miss the simple efficiency. It's very cheap to maintain, very low stress. And you get a lot of personal space on public transport. And a lot of videos around this kind of period are filmed late at night, because I was actually going to college as a mature student, and so if I was doing any riffs, they were relatively easier than they used to be, and I also would have to record them like after I was done college work and any day job work I had, i.e. teaching guitar. Yeah, so they're lean years for Dat Riff, but we're on the other side now. Yeah, like, look how dark this is. So I hate my sound here, but Come True's often slightly detunes things, and it's very hard to get an in-tune guitar to sound like a slightly detuned synthesizer. I'm sure I could do a better job of it, but I'm going to blame Com as well for making this difficult for me. There's a couple of really cool things about this song. The scale is really interesting. I think I called it the Indian hyper blues scale once. It's like playing a blues scale, but starting from the major seventh. And then playing those fast runs with no distortion at all means you have to have a really even picking tone. And because I hybrid pick a lot, often the pick notes and the pluck notes come out slightly different volumes. It's very, very difficult to keep everything sounding clean and consistent without the compression from gain. And it just gave me more respect for Shawn nailing these things. Just making them sound so musical. Oh yeah, look at that multi-angle. That's some serious bass face. I think this is probably top on the list of riffs I can no longer play. So it's all downpicked, 120 BPM, 16th notes. I think that's right. Yeah, just like no way I could play this today. The legato run's quite easy. It's just that downpicking. Oh Oh, it's embarrassing. I'm wearing the same outfit. I can't believe we got a good Blade Runner sequel. You know, just goes to show sometimes life is much better than you expect. And I really want to just steal all of Hans Zimmer's 5/4 grooves. The guy actually writes sick metal riffs. Awkwardly, the other band, Ghost, is far more popular than this one, and this is the one I like. So I'm always telling people, oh, I love Ghost, and they're like, oh, Ghost. I'm like, no, Ghost. And only once has the opposite happened, where someone's gone, I love Ghost. I'm like, you mean Ghost? And they're like, no, Ghost. I'm like, shit, that's the good one. Anyway. I think this is a really cool sound. I think if I did this nowadays and I had the cool psychedelic synthwave backgrounds and stuff, I think it'd be a much more watchable video, because it's basically just me doing almost nothing from an awkward camera angle. But it's an awesome song. I recorded this because I went to an absolutely awesome gig. It was Atlas, Kadinja, Vola, Monuments. I'm like, holy shit, what a lineup. I mean, I would have gone for any one of those bands, but to get all of them on the same card. So kind of to memorialize that, I wanted to record one riff from each band, which I think I gave up at Monuments, because Monuments are difficult, and João exists, who's gonna like do a better version of anything Monuments than I will. I love when artists make it ambiguous whether something is an instrument or a voice. And like, if you listen to the original track here, it starts as a blend of her vocal and the instrument and fades into the instrument as it goes. I think out of all the music I'm a hipster about, Bendik's first album is like #1. It's actually an awesome album. It's not very heavy. So whether that's a good thing or bad thing for you, but it's kind of like if the Cardigans met the Deftones. I think it's awesome. Oh yeah, and this is when I started getting into deathcore, basically just because Black Tongue are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing band. I think Nadir is just one of the greatest metal albums ever recorded. And this is when I started pitch shifting my guitar because I was lazy. So this is just pitch shifted down 9 semitones. I still am not sure what that guitar fill really is. Oh yeah, Christmas 2018, I recorded so much stuff, all with this Christmas tree in the background. Kadinja, in my opinion, massively underrated. Like, really singable choruses, sick guitar riffs, even good guitar solos, which is actually kind of rare in the genre. More Black Tongue. More Black Tongue. Did I mention I really like Black Tongue? I am, of course, obsessed with Lorne. There's this weird thing as well where I spend so much time trying to get my guitar to sound exactly like it. And then, of course, if I succeed, you can't really hear it very clearly. It's a fierce groove. Oh, yeah. Some weird reverby shit. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think this is like some of the more niche stuff I do on this channel, but I want to keep up doing really weird stuff occasionally, because otherwise subs are going to get really confused if they're like, oh, this guy just does deathcore riffs, and then, you know, suddenly it's synthwave or Lorne. I should keep doing it regularly just so people know what they're in for. And yeah, you got to be honest. I love this stuff, and so I put it on my channel. I'm really proud of how well I got the attack on the different notes here. Like some of the notes are big, fat, and warm. Some of them are short and sharp. The legato bits are nice and smooth. It just grooves so hard. Allan dying was a tremendous loss to the world. I'm planning on doing a video at some point just outlining just how influential he was on a lot of music you wouldn't expect. But he just had this grasp of beauty that's so rare, and he never played a cliche. Even things in his own playing that he started to repeat on, he would cut out, and you could hear that rawness, that attempt at reaching the transcendent every time he played, and just a magical guitar player. So when I heard he died, I felt I really must pay tribute to, I think, maybe the greatest greatest electric guitar player. And I'm not like trying to... Allan didn't like competition between musicians. He thought that was not good for anybody, and he's probably right. But I have a real deep love and admiration for Allan's music. Yeah, tremendously sad. Oh yeah, first green screen riff. That's such a cool riff. I love all those little microtonal bends. And I think this was the start of me being kind of ambitious and tackling difficult music again. Difficult heavy music again. Because I just started quite a challenging full-time job, and I didn't really have the headspace for serious guitar playing for a while. But eventually, you just hear riffs that's so good you just have to pick up the guitar. And for me, this was one of them. I had no idea if I would be able to successfully figure it out by ear or play it, but in the end I could. So I encouraged you once before, and I'm encouraging you again. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it. So one of the cool things about working out a lot of this music by ear is you notice things you hadn't noticed before. So these little semitone slides, like on the original album, they're so tight, and it's not something I'd ever even considered that should be like that perfectly in time, like the exact time you transition over the fret in the middle, and like how long the note is sustained. I'm kind of just like sliding up, and it sounds okay, but I was amazed when I listened to this like in slow, at like 50% speed on the original when I was working this out by ear, and just how tight the guys in Means End were on these riffs. So the fractalized riffs have become some of the more popular uploads on my channel. It's so difficult to work this music out because you got all these really low chugs. Sometimes they actually are changing note. Like I think the other YouTube cover of this plays those all as like open low string. I think at the time I was very sure it was two separate notes. You have all these like weird harmonics and whammy flicks and whatever. It's like an obstacle course of heavy guitar playing. Really difficult stuff. Massively proud of this. Like, if you had told me as a teenager I would work out an Allan Holdsworth lead line by ear and play it at tempo, I would not have believed it. And like, obviously it was a lot of work, but it was so satisfying. And like, there is like 3 seconds of Allan Holdsworth I actually understand now, which makes me feel pretty cool. I always want to get more into whammy bar playing, but yeah, I don't know. What's a heavy band with lots of good whammy bar usage? Put it in the comments. Oh yeah, it's me. See, I can't nod and play one long lead note at the same time, which is kind of hilarious. I actually even have a synthwave display on my monitor, so it's also synthwavy in the reflection on the guitar. That was how committed I was to this. Oh yeah, and this is actually my favorite video transition of anything I've ever done on this channel. Watch this clock dissolve. Come on, that's so cool. Lorne has stopped making stuff that's easily imitated on the guitar. For better or for worse, his more recent music has been getting weirder. Certainly more challenging to play on the guitar. So, but it's still so cool. And I can't emphasize enough, if you don't listen to exactly how each note in that line comes in, how sharply and loudly, how sharp is the attack, how loud is it, it just doesn't sound right. And it was really like difficult trying to get all the volumes right, because each of your fingers has a different amount of strength and the approach angle and stuff. So there's this real mix of really delicate, precise technique, and also like you're not going to play the riff with a lot of feeling if you're consciously thinking about it. So you have to internalize it and then produce it. And yeah, like it's a really interesting challenge. And I think you know, getting the right volume of every note on a line using just hammer-ons from nowhere, it's really challenging and really interesting. Like lots of people, I just couldn't believe how good the recent Loathe album is. God. And I actually spent so much time finding something I thought was fun for this next section. I don't know why, I just felt like it. And I eventually found this video of, I think it's corporate training line dancing classes, that was Creative Commons on YouTube, and then I synced the tempo of the dance with the tempo of this chug, which still makes me really happy, but not as happy as the camera transition at the end of this, where it like spin zooms into a woman as she disappears off. I love this. Okay, and here's the transition. Come on, that's so cool. And then because it's double time from the initial time you hear these riffs, the background is double time as well. I love doing that stuff. I don't even know if I want Vildjharta to come back. I'm kind of scared. If you really need your thal itch scratched, Darknet is one of the two bands you should check out immediately. The other one is Indistinct, like the best thal outside of Mastodon. I made this early partly because I wanted the views from the Doom crowd, but honestly, like, I think Doom 2 is the reason I like heavy music, because as a kid I just played Doom all the time. And so it's really cool to be able to like engage with the soundtrack in a meaningful way all these years later with the new Dooms. So speaking of, I think earlier I was saying it's really difficult when you've got to transcribe stuff that sounds messy on the original. Like, how do you get it right when you cover it? Because it's very hard to play the mess exactly in the same way it was messy in the original. But I think I actually got something pretty close here, like with this run. I mean, very happy with that harmonic. This riff from Fractalize is so sick, and I really wanted to play it on one guitar, but it was just impossible. So I atoned for my sins by doing the octave slide there. Even though I can't play it on one guitar, I can still do this without a whammy pedal, because I'm super cool. If you want to feel true terror, listen to Tigran at half speed and how precise his dynamics are. So in this, basically, roughly speaking, the guitar you see on the left plays roughly Tigran's left hand parts, and the guitar you see on the right plays roughly his right hand parts. And sometimes there's like two right hand parts. Yeah, like so here there's like a mid-range note and then closer intervals in the highest range. And this note is consistently played kind of like slightly softly. These notes maintain a really consistent dynamic of their own. I think slightly quieter than that. The bass is articulated in such a way it grooves, you know, with a little bit more emphasis. And he's amazingly consistent, you know. So it's like he's in Ableton or something, and he can just like score these as different instruments in his head, like that he's got like the dissonant part at the top and it has a specific dynamic, and it has like a middle part that like fills out the layers and it's got a specific dynamic, and then the riff has a specific dynamic. Absolutely unbelievable rhythmic precision and dynamic control. And it's also fun when you try and move things from the piano to the guitar, and you try and do things like incorporate open strings, and just to make it guitar-y. Like that slide, obviously there's no slide on the piano, but I just thought it sounded good. This is an absolute memorization gauntlet. I'm planning to do a fractalized riff analysis video sometime, but I'm scared of tapping. I'm scared of tapping it. I think that'll take me days. So my guitar's an octave up for all of this. Absolutely stunning solo, in my opinion. Kind of meandering, but quite pretty phrasing. And then these like beautiful little fast runs that really shimmer like this. And I actually like really nailed that one. And then I filmed it from this dumb angle where you can't see the tapping. Ah well. I have a real theory that people that are attracted to monochrome, highly violent art like that of Nihei Tsutomu also like Thal. This whole album by No Oath is themed around Nihei Tsutomu's work, and I am also a massive Thal and Nihei fan. How does that work? Maybe just we're both hipsters. I don't know. I think there's a real aesthetic link there. Oh, it's really cool that this is the 100th riff actually, because this guy Boom Bam Smash, like there's just a small group of people on YouTube who I occasionally see who like cover some interesting riffs and write their own really cool original riffs. So I thought this riff of his was so cool, I just had to do a riff cover of it. He didn't post a video, he just posted the audio. And it has this like really gross, weird slide. This thing. No idea if that's how he played it, but it just sounded so gross, I just had to give it a go. So this riff is riff 101. So I'm going to finish the video there, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe there was something interesting there. I guess I'll find out in the edit, and I'll find out from the comments if I upload it. It would be cool to hear from some old subscribers and see like if there's any particular era of riffs you think is most interesting. If there's stuff I used to do you like more, if there's stuff I do now you like more, just let me know. I'll take it all on board. I might not do it because I do this channel for a hobby, and I kind of reserve my right to just do whatever I feel like, but I really do still value the input, and I come across some cool bands from your recommendations, some cool riffs from bands that I already know that I didn't really appreciate before, and just it's such a privilege to have such a really great community. This is like one of the rare YouTube comment sections that's consistently just positive and fun, and thank you all for that, and Happy New Year.